Hello, welcome to Psyched for Sanity. I'm one of your co-hosts, Dr. Tara McKelvey Parker. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I specialize in assessing and treating complex trauma and attachment wounds from childhood.
And I am your other co-host. My name is Dr. Brindle Doss. I'm a licensed psychologist specializing in trauma treatment. I almost said attachment again. I don't know why I do that sometimes. I don't specialize in attachment. Forensic psychology, geriatric psychology, and trauma treatment. And
Tell us a silly thing about yourself.
It's not that silly.
Okay.
Maybe it is.
Okay.
And I have
I'll
a
be the
favorite
judge.
word that I've had for a very long time.
What is that word?
Conundrum.
Conundrum. Just rolls right off the tongue.
I
Conundrum.
just like the word, and I also like the meaning.
Why do you like the word?
I like the I don't know. It's just like a fun word, and it's also like it's
Conundrum.
it's a fancy way. You know, I'm fancy.
Yes.
It's a fancy way for saying a complex problem.
Conundrum. You're like that. You're a complex problem.
Ouch!
Like as a person.
Wow, wow.
That said so
Et tu,
lovingly.
Brute? Et tu? I'm sad.
Lovingly.
That's making me really, really sad today.
Conundrum. I just want to be on like.
I'm just so sad right now.
No, really?
Yeah, you just like said I'm a problem as a person.
I didn't mean it that way, but this is so appropriate for our episode today.
The conundrum or me being like problem?
Sad.
Or me being sad. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean
I
to
know.
hurt your feelings. I love you so much.
Love you too.
And being a complex problem is an interesting thing to be. Because I feel like I'm
Could
a
I just
little...
not be a problem, no?
Problems isn't too negative anyway. Okay. Comfort.
Yeah.
We know
Yeah.
that I like to binge watch. I just watch the same shows over and over and over for comfort.
As you do.
It's been a while since I've seen a new show. And recently, I rewatched all 7 seasons of Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
How many seasons are there?
There are 7 seasons of that show.
I thought you said 17 for a minute. I
No,
was
that would be, I
panicking.
mean, that would be a lot. 7 was a lot. It was a real commitment. But it was a real commitment for me. Okay. New TV shows require commitment, any kind of, so I have to really, but it was so comforting. It was so nostalgic.
Yeah.
I've watched it
Of course.
before, and this is not the first time I've
Sure.
rewatched it. But it made me think about how much I love magic and Harry Potter, and all of that stuff was so comforting
Yeah.
for me growing up. So it was a good feeling.
Right.
And, comfort is one of the things that help when we are feeling sad.
Like when you made me feel sad earlier.
Yes, so I didn't. That was not on purpose, but maybe a part of me was trying to queue up for this episode.
See, you're always thinking in the game. She's always hosting. She's always prepping and tying in.
Because we're talking about sadness today.
Sadness,
Yeah.
loneliness.
Yeah, in our Emotion 101 mini-series, we thought that sadness would be a good next one
Yeah.
to cover.
Absolutely.
Sadness is is a harder one for me.
Mm-hmm.
Sadness.
I think it's hard
harder.
for the world in general.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I think there is. I think there's quite a bit of shame and stigma around being sad or being depressed. Even some depression is normal, but that's
Right.
kind of poo-pooed on a little bit.
Yeah, it is.
I think that lots of people associate sadness with being weak or
Right.
silly or
It's just, I think, so uncomfortable for people. So when
Yeah.
you see someone that is sad or depressed,
Mhm.
there's this idea, the common thing that's said over, from the time children are small to even when we're grown-ups and adults, it's, oh, don't cry.
Yeah, don't cry.
Don't cry.
Don't
Oh,
cry.
it'll be okay.
Or you're too sensitive.
Right.
Right? You're too sensitive.
It's not that big a deal.
It's not that big of a deal.
Right. Eggs.
And these are things that, we sometimes say because it's sad.
It's
Sad.
discomfortable. It's
hard.
uncomfortable for us
Sadness
to
is
experience someone else's.
hard, especially in our kids. So sometimes we say,
children.
try to kind of get them to feel better. But
Absolutely.
that's how we develop shame around feeling and expressing sadness.
Yeah.
And sadness is actually a really important feeling.
So important.
As you probably know from Inside Out, one of my favorite movies.
Yes.
Sadness is very important.
Right.
So, but I think as much as we kind of know that intellectually, it's really hard to notice, I think, when we're feeling sad and to sort of express it and to feel better. So
Right.
we wanted to talk a little bit about that today with sadness.
Yeah. So I know this might sound kind of silly or redundant, but we always like to in these episodes help define our kind of conversations on our topics and kind of set parameters. So Could you help our audience understand like what is sadness? And then we'll kind of talk about the purpose.
Right. Well, I mean, sadness is just an experience of loss, right? Change, disconnection.
Yes, that's what the word was coming to my mind.
Loneliness
And disconnection.
Yeah, it's really about that.
Right.
So when we feel sad, like the idea is that there is something we've lost. There's we're feeling lonely. We're needing connection, comfort.
Sure.
This one I didn't know, but when I was thinking about this episode and doing a little bit of research, I hadn't really thought about sadness this way, but sadness often helps highlight what matters to us, what's meaningful for us.
Right. Puts your values in perspective.
Like if we feel sad over something, it may reflect like a loss of a value or a betrayal of a value, or it's something we've lost that really mattered to us, whether that is a person or a situation or an idea
or even a part of yourself.
Absolutely. Like it literally just loss and disconnection is what the feeling is really meant to help us understand is happening for us. That's the message.
So then if that's sort of what it is, like the message would be, what is it? Like I always try to help people, and I think you do this as well, and we kind of do this even on the podcast when we talk about emotion. I like to help people frame emotions as messengers.
Yep.
So what would you say the message of sadness is? Like we experience sadness for a reason. What is it trying to tell us to do or to experience?
Well, I think it's just saying like you've lost something, someone, you just lost something that's very important.
Right.
You feel disconnected from something that really matters to you.
Yeah.
But
I also think that can be also like a bid for connection.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yes.
The message of sadness is to...
Right. I mean, that's the flip side of it. It's about loss and disconnection. But, one of the things then that we want to encourage people, once we recognize, that we're feeling sad, then, connection with something.
Like it's a signal,
comfort.
I guess.
It's
framing it.
Yeah, it's a signal. Just like all the emotions are signals in some kind of a way. Sadness is one, I think we all think about sadness and crying as like pretty common manifestation, but there's a lot of different ways that sadness can show up.
Tons of ways.
And in particular for me and for in my sort of journey over the past couple of years, I've had to really like really dig in and get to some of those more subtle indicators of sadness so that I can allow myself to feel it.
Now, what would be a subtle indicator of sadness?
So like we've talked about in our Emotion 101 miniseries, emotions are usually experienced in a variety of ways.
Yes.
One of them is physiological, right? So like bodily sensations. So what I have learned to do, because I'm trying to connect more with my sadness and more with my grief about hard things that have happened to me in my life. One of the ways to work through those events is to be able to grieve about what happened. So to be sad and to be angry. And so sadness is hard for me to experience until I'm like bawling. So, I don't notice otherwise.
Right.
So I've made it a habit to do like a somatic meditation, like a body scan. And I've noticed that when what's connected to sadness in my body is like this pit in my stomach.
Yeah.
And this tightness behind my shoulder blades. And if I sit with that sensation for long enough, it sounds woo-woo, but you can kind of follow the sensation out, and then I just like floodgates open.
Woo exists for a reason.
It's all in your body, but that's taken me a while to sort of figure out and hone. But there are a lot of physiological manifestations of sadness.
What are some other physiological manifestations would you say for sadness?
What else? Like like a tightness.
Tightness.
Some people feel tightness in their chest.
Like the eyes kind of prick, like they're feeling like they're about to cry. That kind of like,
Yeah, definitely.
Or the tightness in the throat.
Definitely. It's sort of like that sensation of wanting to cry, because really sadness needs to come out in crying. Like it's important. We'll talk about the research later, but it's real important. And then I think just heaviness. I think for a lot of people, it feels like just like heavy.
Kind of like a weary feeling maybe.
Yeah, or like you're drudging through quicksand, just kind of like, like
Right.
that sort of like can be a physiological manifestation of sadness.
Okay.
Sometimes hunger can be too.
Interesting.
So, that's one way to start paying attention to
Right.
sadness in your body.
Absolutely. Okay.
What are some other ways? What else do we think about when it comes to sadness in terms of like cognitive, cognitive manifestations of sadness?
Gosh, I feel like there's so many.
I know.
I think for cognitive manifestations of sadness, it just feels kind of like it might be what we've talked about in previous episodes, like elements of cognitive distortions potentially can be tied in with that.
Could be. Yeah. I think any kind of like probably thought about loss, disconnection.
I miss her.
Yeah, I miss so and so because of death or they moved away.
Disconnection.
Yeah.
Breaking the relationship.
Yes, a break in the relationship. I feel unseen. It can even be moments of loss in conversations, right? With like a friend or a partner. If you really don't feel seen, that
Right.
feels like a loss and that can feel really sad.
Sure.
So any kind of cognition like that would kind of maybe cue you
Okay.
into some sadness, I would
That
think.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Behavioral is a little easier. Behavioral manifestations of sadness are maybe what people notice more.
Yes.
Because they're a little bit more obvious.
And that's the kind I think that creates such discomfort in others. Wouldn't you say?
The crying.
Crying.
Yeah, it's hard to see people cry.
Yeah, I think it takes. I think we're not in our Western civilization, in our society, in our culture, at least where we're currently, at the current, our current position in the world.
Yeah. I think strength is a huge value, like, in our culture. So,
Yes, definitely. I think going back to your comment that crying is equated to weakness.
yeah.
And I think when you see someone crying, I think it distresses us so much that we don't, we want to like minimize it and get rid of it because it's just so.
Yeah, I think
uncomfortable.
people tend to lean dismissive when it comes to sadness.
Right.
And I think it's, like I just go back to parenting. I think there are some parenting, I think we want to make our kids feel happy. And so I think we tend to want to
Right.
cheerlead or kind of make them feel better. But it is actually very important
Yes.
to let your kid cry or
Yeah.
to just be able to cry and like not feel shame about
Right.
it. But that's one of the ways I think that people learn to suppress or avoid
Yeah.
sadness, and that can have consequences.
Right. I want to get to the content in a minute, but I really
Yeah.
want to talk about, I think we should talk about here, like something that I think kind of rocked both of our worlds as we were discussing this in preparation for today's episode is like the almost neurobiological reason why
Oh.
crying is so critical.
It's really important. Yeah, like it literally. I mean, I kind of knew this, but not really
So
knew
no,
this when we like really looked it up. But it was kind of a very exciting tidbit of information.
Oh my God,
for me.
we both got so
We were
jazzed
so
by this.
excited.
We were so excited about sadness.
Like literal
Sorry.
crying increases endorphins and oxytocin.
Yes.
So these, do you want to tell?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are these
So
hormones?
crying, the physical act of crying releases these really important, oxytocin, endorphins, which are like positive, like happy,
Love,
comfort hormones,
content.
if you will, or and then it decreases cortisol, which is the stress hormone of the body when you cry.
Yes.
And it activates the parasympathetic nervous system,
Yes.
which shifts you from kind of like an active
Fight or flight state
Down to
into a calm, regulated
of
state.
homeostasis
Right.
with emotion and everything else in your body, breathing, respiration, heart
Yes.
rate,
Yes. Yes.
everything.
And, I think I've talked about Pete Walker on here before. He's a big, complex PTSD researcher
Yes.
and therapist, but, he talks about emotional flashbacks. And one of the surest, quickest ways to actually break out of an emotional flashback,
Really?
right, which is that shame, fear loop,
Yes.
is crying.
Interesting.
Because it activates the parasympathetic nervous system and
Right.
you feel safe.
Right.
The threat goes down. And it's one of the ways that we need to grieve to heal from trauma and just distress, any kind of chronic
Right.
tension. So I was like, this is so cool. Like I knew this, but didn't know this. And also like, it makes me feel, I love this research for our listeners who may have some shame around feeling
Right.
sad
But we're
or
literally
crying.
biologically wired
Like it's so important.
Almost like the way we'd say it clinically, it's medically necessary that you cry. And I can now say that to people confidently.
It's like medicine. It's literal medicine.
Right.
It's medicine for your body to feel better.
Medicine that's completely
natural.
Yes.
In there.
Right.
Isn't that insane?
Ready to go whenever you can access it.
I thought it was really cool.
No, so we're getting jazzed up now.
I know it's really exciting. And I think, okay, hold on. Let's finish behavioral manifestations and then talk about consequences.
Yeah. What happens if you don't cry?
What happens if you don't cry? Ugh.
Yikes.
Okay, so crying obviously is one of the main behavioral manifestations, but other things you may notice behaviorally if you need to attend to some sadness is like lack of appetite, feeling like sleeping more,
or a need to sleep.
Yeah, just feeling
tiredness.
like just really, really fatigued could indicate.
I think a lack
sadness.
of interest, like an anhedonia, which is the fancy word for like lack of interest in people and things, and just less motivated to connect, which is
and to experience joy.
Right.
It's harder to experience joy, and this is obviously on a spectrum. Like we all can feel that
moments
way
of this.
Sometimes momentarily, and then it can be every day, all day, and then that's harder. But it's more depressive, and we get into a more depressed state.
Yeah.
So just kind of stillness or withdrawal can be another indicator.
Or like a desire to withdraw from others.
Exactly. Or not reach for that connection like you were saying. So these are all different manifestations of sadness. And sadness is super important to be able to notice and feel and process out of you for healing and for it not to have negative consequences.
The way I try to help people understand it, I'm a big metaphor girl. You guys probably
already know. Like the metaphors. You're good at these.
Well, I try.
Yeah.
I'm not all of them it. I try to help people understand what it is like to experience the emotion of sadness in like a helpful way. It's kind of like walking through ankle or maybe knee-high water. You can do it. It just takes more intentional effort to physically walk through that experience. And kind of like you mentioned quicksand earlier. Mm-hmm. And the hope is to go from that quicksand kind of sinking feeling to the functional movement of experiencing proactively trying to not avoid sadness, staying in the moment, not avoiding thoughts around sadness. But walking through that water can help you stay present and you're doing something with your brain and body. But I feel like if you can feel like you're, walking through the motion and being with it, it doesn't have to feel so omnipresent, and you don't have to avoid it as much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but there's, still some avoidance,
people still
around sadness. So then what happens?
Oh, yeah. You want to tell you?
Tell me. Yeah.
It's not good.
Okay, tell me. Your eyes look scary. They get to do the eyebrow thing. But it can be, there can be
My eyeball thing got distracted.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, so when we are struggling to feel our sadness and we're struggling to allow that emotion to occur in our brain and our body, it can lead to disconnection, numbness. Mm-hmm. When we unplug from one emotion, it is really, really hard to plug into the fun ones: joy, contentment, happiness, pleasure.
That is the lesson that Inside Out taught us, right?
Back to Inside Out. They did a great job, those
Riley
screenwriters.
Needed to feel sad.
I'm sure they had a psychologist and or mental health professional advising them.
Yes.
For sure.
That movie, I love it.
Right.
But yes.
But when you disconnect from one, it is really hard to feel others. And emotion is kind of like energy. It has to go somewhere.
It has to go somewhere.
And if it does not come out through the mechanisms that the body and brain have so designed, which is literally kind of crying and feeling
is a big
it,
one, yeah.
then it can come out as anger. And then the physical, physical manifestation of anger, which is aggression. They are separate. We'll talk about that in a later episode. But you have higher rates of substance use, alcohol, illicit substance use, when you don't have access, when it's hard and feels uncomfortable or unsafe to feel sad. It can come out as, it feels like it comes out negative so many ways.
I think about the sadness being stuck and that, turning into
a major
depression,
that stuck sadness.
The stuck sadness. I think for many of us, trauma survivors, there's a lot of stuck grief just grief was blocked. You couldn't, as a kid,
Right.
feel sad about the things happening to you.
Sure.
So that population's more at the substance abuse.
Right.
For sure. You mentioned that as a population. I
Right.
imagine quite a lot of them are trauma survivors. But it just blocks grief. It makes us feel numb, disconnected, like you
Right.
said. And there's just a higher rate of some of these more, these behavioral
Right.
kind of
And I think
manifestations.
in extreme circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
when you can't figure out a way to feel your sadness almost safely,
Mm-hmm.
that can lead to thoughts about death and dying,
Mm-hmm.
and just some scary things around that. Because I think the pattern I have seen in practice can be difficulty tolerating negative emotion, be it sadness, anxiety, what have you, which can lead to numbness, disconnection, and then that can lead to some really challenging and scary thoughts for people
Yeah, for sure.
because they can't access joy and pleasure.
Yeah. And they just can't grieve that sad,
Right.
whatever they're feeling
Right.
really sad about. Sadness is just really, really,
So
really
important.
It's important. And I want to reiterate that it can, I think like to an extent, our listeners may be thinking, well, like, okay, it's not hard for me to feel sad. I can cry. Like it's
Or
not,
I get this thing, I feel sad all the time.
or I feel sad.
Right.
Oh, well, I think sometimes people do equate sad with depressed too. I think like for some of my patients and even for myself, sometimes it feels like, yeah, if we've been sad, like, or all it's like that's, it feels like it's a depressed state. It's not quite the same thing as sad, but sad can sometimes feel so overwhelming and terrible and like it's never
Yes.
going to stop.
That I was about to say, emotions can lie to you, and
Yeah.
they can make you think and feel, even though it's confusing to feel about your feelings. They can make you feel that you're gonna feel this way forever.
Forever.
And that is not accurate and not true.
I think it's scary for people who, in particular, who did grow up in environments where crying and sadness wasn't okay,
Right.
but they felt a lot of it and couldn't really express it. When
Yes.
they're older, they're even more likely to feel scared to be sad because it feels like, no one ever really held them in their sadness necessarily.
right.
So it just feels really scary and alone,
Uncomfortable.
uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
But I promise if you're experiencing sadness, like clean sadness, like grief about loss,
Yeah.
it will end.
Can
It
you-
will end.
Right. Absolutely. Well, can you help the audience and everyone listening or watching at home understand really briefly, because this is gonna come up again, I feel, the difference between a clean emotional experience
Yeah.
and
Yeah, so
others?
a clean sadness is just feeling sad about loss and disconnection. And it's legit, like it is useful, it is productive,
Yeah.
it is healthy. It gets complicated, and this is why I think a lot of people feel like, oh, I'm just never going to stop feeling sad. It gets complicated when other feelings and meanings get attached to that clean emotion, and then it
Right.
gets blocked. So the shame that we were talking about earlier, if you feel silly or weak or
Dumb.
too much, dramatic,
emotional.
sensitive, when you feel sad, you are going to block the expression of the sadness, which is what you want
Absolutely.
to feel and get out. That is healthy and necessary. So we want to feel
It's
clean.
even, dare I say the word, normal,
and normal.
which we don't usually use,
Normal.
but it is functionally appropriate.
But other feelings and meanings that we have learned about our emotional experiences that we
Yeah.
attach to the feelings what block the expression. And that's
Right.
what I mean when I say clean. It's
Okay.
good to feel clean sadness. That's very
Yeah.
helpful.
Now that we've kind of talked about, I feel like, what sadness is, what it can look like, how it can manifest in the body, some thoughts with it.
And some really cool research about how
Some really
amazingly
amazing, wonderful
important it
news
is.
that we have a medical necessity to cry as
Yeah.
human beings that
Yeah.
we can tell.
Yeah.
What can people do to feel their sadness in a safe way, and what's like the ultimate message of sadness, do you
And
think?
like, what do we do to feel better? Maybe.
yeah, what do
Like,
we do to feel better?
What's like a good way to feel
like a
healthier
good-
way to
a
feel
healthy way
better,
to,
right?
like, access our sadness. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, first off, like paying attention to these different manifestations, so
Always
that you
start with the
can
body.
right, the body, or it may be you're
Sure.
thinking about a loss, or you are crying. Just notice the ways in which sadness is showing up for you.
Yep.
Ultimately, we want to try to have some kind of catharsis.
Release.
Yeah. Release that crying. That one's, that one's important. That's one of the main ways, but it's just not always a direct path to crying if we're not really aware that we're feeling sad or if we stuffed it or suppressed it for so long.
And I feel like that's one thing that can get to that stuck sadness is when we're not directly accessing what we're really, really sad about, it doesn't come all the way out. It's like there's some water left in the jar.
Exactly. So once you've recognized it, okay, it's help, and you've, tried to sort of emote, cry. I think one of the other biggest, sort of ways to feel better is to seek comfort.
So the message of sadness after acknowledging the loss or the disconnection is to seek comfort from others or pets, maybe.
Yeah, pets.
Seek support.
Binge watch a nostalgic TV show from your childhood.
Right.
Rewatch something fun. Just something that brings you comfort, whether that is crying, because then you have the physical sort of experience of comfort and catharsis, or seeking comfort from a person or some kind of, even a cozy blanket can feel comforting. So comfort and connection, those things are really important when we feel sad.
Yeah, and sometimes I think when I have a session with a patient that is really emotionally intense and there is a lot of expression of sadness, I will tell them, hey, I want you to go home if you can. Sometimes they can't. But I want you to go home and pretend that you have a cold. And I want you to treat yourself like a cold. Whatever is comforting and safe and nourishing for you.
That's a really great point.
Chicken noodle soup. Big blankets, ideally. Safe
Rest.
environment,
Rest. Because
rest
sadness,
without busyness or over activity.
Yes, because sadness is saying like we need to rest and be
slow
still. Down. And so that's a great point. I think we do. Rest. When people are sad, it's draining. It's tiring.
Right.
I want to take a nap. And naps are great.
And that's
great.
part of it.
Yeah, rest and relax, recalibrate. Sadness too kind of makes us think about what is important, what matters, right? And so reflection, sadness slows us down. It's meant to.
It kind of calls us to that reflective moment.
It sure does. It makes us rest. It makes us reflect about meaning and what's important. All of that. And then depending on the level of sad, some of us need some behavioral activation.
What does that look like? What does that mean?
Gentle movement. So I wouldn't say go do a HIIT workout. You necessarily. I mean,
Noted.
Sometimes when I'm more like lower mood, the HIIT workouts can be great. But in general, I would say gentle, like stretching.
Okay.
A walk outside.
Maybe like even like yoga that feels comfortable.
Yeah, like some yin yoga. Don't go do some hot power yoga. Folks, that's more activating. We're wanting, like, if we're experiencing just
smooth, slow, comfortable motion.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
So those are the main. I think those are some of like the main ways that we can feel better when we're sad. And I had a little caveat about the TV watching because it can be. I do think some of us, if we are a little bit more avoidant or suppressing of emotion, can sort of do distraction only.
Right.
We're like only binge watching, or only seeking comfort.
Or avoidance by sleeping.
Or sleeping, yes.
Right.
So it can definitely teeter into avoidance.
Right.
In an unhelpful way.
Sure.
So
I think the key is to acknowledge the feeling and stay in your body as much as you can tolerate.
Emote,
and
feel, cry as much as possible, seek connection.
Yes.
Some distraction sometimes can be super comforting, right? And that's totally fine. It's just to the extent that anything becomes rigid.
Right. I'll have people, if they're struggling to learn how to cry or feel cry safely, I'll tell them, hey, crying in the shower is a great way to do it. Or crying, a lot of us have smartwatches or devices. I said, put on the 1 minute timer. Focus on the emotion without avoidance or distraction. And then after that 1 minute, go get a glass of cold water. Cold water can help you regulate after an intense emotional expression. And this has to let my patients access emotion in a brief, safe way that doesn't feel as psychologically overwhelming.
Yeah, because
and
that's
can be
a good
great
point.
entry point
We want
to
little
starting to feel sadness.
digestible moments. That's a great point. We want to sit with emotion as much as we can tolerate, and then it's totally fine.
It's
to
a learning
come out.
process for sure.
And it made me think of one quick thing I wanted to just throw out again. There's this book, Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving, and Pete Walker has a list. It's actually super helpful. What you said reminded me of this, of how to emote, how to experience sadness and anger,
What's
which
the name
are
of the book?
hard. It's Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. And he's got some great tips on this, kind of very similar to what you were suggesting.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
well, what do you take it away from today? What's been important for you?
dude, I'm still real excited about that research. I've told everybody.
Man, we should rename the podcast Two Psychology Nerds Alone in a Room.
Well, and maybe lots of people already knew this, but I'm just like,
no, I don't think people did know it. I feel like we're relatively educated professionals.
I mean, I knew what I did.
In this profession.
Obviously, I knew it was like super important, but like not like scientifically why.
Exactly. I think, though, I also want to echo your excitement about that. And then maybe it can be confusing to people listening or watching at home that we're excited about sadness. But I think why we're excited is because I think in our conversation today, we both learned something, which we love learning, and B, I think it reinforced something that we already knew was important and meaningful for our patients,
right?
And gave it more valiance or power as to why people need to do it,
right? Because experiencing emotion is so important.
And
it's just
all
so
of them,
hard to do
even if it's hard. And I guess that's what I'm taking away too.
Yeah, is
how friggin' hard this is, and how important, and how unnecessary. And we want you to go out there and feel all your feelings.
Go cry today.
Go cry today.
Go put on a sad movie and just cry.
If you need to. If you don't need to, that's okay too. But go out there and feel your feelings and leave us a comment. Drop us some feedback. We'd love to know how you experience sadness. Yeah, how do you experience sadness? This podcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for therapy, diagnosis, or any kind of professional mental health treatment. We hope that we can share with you our experience authentically and genuinely, and we hope that occasionally we'll make you laugh. Maybe you can relate to our quest and how we're psyched for sanity. The content we share is our personal opinions and insights. They are not clinical insights to anyone, and they don't represent or reflect any entity that we work and or have worked for in the past. But if listening to this podcast has made you think, we really encourage you to seek out a mental health professional in your area.